All right, so the world wants to get after this mom with the little kid and the gorilla. What?
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
Hope you had a great Memorial Day weekend. I hope you at least spent a little bit of time thanking a veteran or thinking about or raising your kids to know that Memorial Day is not just about hot dogs and a chance to get to the beach, although the weather was, pretty warm and pretty cool. Actually, yesterday was a little rainy, but you know what I'm talking about. Everybody good? Nice to have you in. Thanks for watching on this Tuesday. A local op-ed piece that I think was very gutsy will be the subject of the longer part of the conversation tonight. Michael Marra, who's a teacher at Portsmouth High School, has written something I think very powerful about the concept of seniority, and he is my guest coming up in segments 2 and 3. So if you care about education, if you're concerned about the issues of the day regarding the power of seniority, the unions, the kids, oh yeah, the kids, aren't they kind of an important part of this? Don't go anywhere. In the meantime, we're going to forego the rundown tonight because the world is talking about this particular story, and we're lucky enough to have the executive director of our own world-renowned zoo here to talk about this. Look at the headline here. And then here's the story. If you haven't seen it, maybe you were away. Look at this.
Cincinnati Zoo officials say Harambe was agitated and disoriented after he encountered a child in his enclosure Saturday.
We did not take the shooting of Harambe lightly, but that child's life was in danger.
On Monday, Zoo Director Thane Maynard doubled down on the decision to shoot the western lowland gorilla.
Oh my God!
After a 4-year-old boy climbed over a public barrier into the gorilla's habitat.
People who question that don't understand that you can't take a risk with a silverback gorilla. They're very big, 3 times bigger than a man, 6 times stronger than that.
Harambe's death is under heavy scrutiny. More than 300,000 people have signed a petition calling for the boy's parents to be held accountable.
The zoo isn't a babysitter.
Wildlife biologist Jeff Corwin isn't placing blame, but says the public should be more attentive.
We have responsibilities when we take our families. And a lot of times we get lost in our cell phone or this selfie picture or texting, and we're not keeping an eye on what's going on with our own children.
The boy made his way past a 3-foot fence and through an additional 4 feet of plants and shrubs before dropping 15 feet into the moat below. And although the Cincinnati Zoo is standing by its decision, they too are mourning the gorilla, along with Jerry Stones, who took care of Harambe for the first 15 years of his life.
He was not mean. He was a gentle little guy, and an unforeseen circumstance was born, and he had to lose.
This is a tragic story. Dr. Jeremy Goodman is the executive director of the Roger Williams Park Zoo. Welcome again. Nice to have you back.
Thanks. Nice to be here.
What was your gut about this?
You know, this is the type of situation that every zoo director just, really loses sleep over and fears that it'll happen at their institution. We all take all the precautions in the world to try to make sure it doesn't happen with designing safe enclosures, proper barriers, drilling and making sure that we're ready for an event like this, but it's just really tragic.
Dumb question I should have asked before you got on. Do we have gorillas?
We don't have gorillas here at Roger Williams Park Zoo, but we have other dangerous animals.
Like?
We have our big cats, snow leopards, cheetahs, elephants are dangerous, so we have a number of dangerous animals at the zoo.
The public's weird going after this mom. Now look, if this is we'll probably get some expose. This has been a traditionally rambunctious kid who's never blah, 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 blah. But the truth of the matter is a 4-year-old can swim away and who knows what. Can you walk in the shoes of the Cincinnati Zoo people in terms of the decision? And then do you have a thought on this incredible public social media reaction to the parents' responsibility here?
Oh, without having been there, I really can't speak for the Cincinnati Zoo, but having knowing what I do know, I have no doubt that they made the right decision. They saved that boy's life. I have no doubt about that in my mind. I'm sure the gorilla was...
It was a good 10 minutes. I wonder what they actually were doing. I mean, they're obviously trying to get the weaponry or whatever to be able to. I mean, you don't stock a gun to kill one of the animals in case of breach, do you?
Most accredited zoos do. If you have dangerous animals at Roger Williams Park Zoo, we have a weapons closet centrally located, and we have a an animal response team that is trained and rehearses regularly for that, as well as a veterinary tranquilizing team that, in an event of emergency, both would be dispatched.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, you take this thing and you should, very seriously. But patrons at the Roger Williams Zoo should know that you're training for this mishap. You don't just have a bunch of kids running around watching the park, thinking,
Absolutely.
this is a professional operation.
We have a full security force, and that's keeping an eye on the patrons. But as well, our staff is very well trained. We, being an accredited institution from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, we have at least a minimum of 4 drills a year. So a couple weeks ago, we just had an emergency hazardous weather drill for a hailstorm. We'll have a bomb scare drill. So we drill regularly for all sorts of emergencies, and the message really is that good zoos like ours and around the country are still safe places. And it was a very unfortunate incident, but we shouldn't really overlook all the great things that happen at the zoos, our conservation work, our education work.
Do you think this protocol, and I know you weren't there, so you can't, so this is hypothetical and perhaps just your own guess. Do you think that they were mentally, psychologically conditioned to kill the animal simply as protocol? In other words, 4-year-old in his presence, holy cow, they weren't gauging. You think they were buying time, seeing if the kid was free, they can go get the kid, that kind of thing, or was like, pow, that thing, as soon as we get a good shot, bang?
I can't comment on their situation. All I know is that in our situation, it is constantly gauging the situation. Can the animal be brought back in? Would our keepers be trying to call that animal back in? Do we have a clear shot? Would the child potentially be harmed? Could we tranquilize that animal? All those things go through, and that's why you practice, and that's why you have drills regularly, and you change those situations up. And really, if the difference between whether the child's screaming or whether the child's unconscious, how the animal reacts. So every situation is very unique, and I don't think any trained zoo professional goes in saying that we're going to shoot to kill unless they are sure that a human life is in danger.
All right, so that's a great answer. And your thought about the responsibility of the mother in this case is?
I'm a parent. I've got 3 kids. I really can't judge on what happened there. All I know is I'm very thankful that child is going to have a full recovery and there was no serious harm to him.
This guy tweets, it's part of the story in the New York Times today. I don't know who he is. A mother doesn't know how to look after her child, so an endangered species of gorilla gets shot and killed. When will we become extinct? Hashtag. As much as you love animals, there's a clear delineation, correct?
At our zoo and most, really good zoos, human life always comes first, and that's the way we do things. And unfortunately, there are situations like this that happen. But once again, nothing trumps saving a human's life in this case, and it's something that is a very unfortunate incident that unfortunately an endangered species had to be shot. But I'm very confident they made the right decision.
Dr. Goodman, thanks. Appreciate you being here. When we come back, take a look at this headline. This is an op-ed that was in the Providence Journal last week, and it is a must-read if you haven't seen it already. All I do is sell newspapers. When you come back, you'll meet the author. Stay with us. Yeah, so one more time, let me show you this headline that it was casual reading last week, and I said, is this guy kidding me? Does he ever want to have any company in the lunchroom again? I mean, what is this? Take a look at some of the excerpts out of this. Talking about seniority, and we've just got a couple of random ones here. Why retain poorly performing employees simply because they've been in the business longer? The twisted assumption in this arrangement is that those who've taught more years are to be protected from layoffs without an eye toward the quality of work they perform. Moreover, it assumes teachers who've taught longer are better. And this, under the question, over whether or not we can really evaluate teachers, because that's the cry by the unions. There's no real way to truthfully, objectively evaluate teachers. Michael writes, are you really telling me that we don't really know what constitutes a great, mediocre, or poor teachers? The kids know, the parents know, the administrators and guidance counselors clearly know. Shouldn't teachers know? Yeah, we do. We got to stop hurting our students. Mike was on the radio with me last week and got an incredible response on the phones. I say congratulations on writing this op-ed piece.
Thank you.
And welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Reaction in a week's time?
Positive. 98% positive. I read a editorial this morning in the Providence Journal that was negative. A gentleman in Little Compton didn't care for it.
Oh, well. How'd you like to be me?
You're the barometer.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you something. You better have some thick skin if you're going to stand up. You're just a 30-year excellent teacher who's on his way out and took a parting shot at the system, so people were trying to explain to me, at least some.
Well, I don't think I'm going anywhere anytime soon. I'm 54. I think I'm going to go till 60. I love what I do. I just see things happen annually to usually younger folks that are really rising rock stars, and they're shown the door. Teachers. And they're shown the door, and that's not good for kids. Kids don't get it. They ask the same questions, and it's a shame. Why would York the impressive be shown the door when Marra the mediocre gets to stay because I got 6 years on you, or 6 months sometimes? It's not good. It's not good policy.
Have you felt this way for a long time?
Yes.
Is this the first time you made a public statement about it?
Oh, I talk to my colleagues about this all the time, and a whole bunch of them agree. I got this note from a former department head.
You made my day.
Well, I got it the other day in the mail, and I said, you know what, this is a department chair that was in the business for, I don't know, 20, 30 years, and they felt strong enough to send it, so there's a lot of people out there. There's a silent majority, I think. They just don't want to rock the boat, and you just get fed up watching really good people being shown the door at the expense of other people that they're not putting in 100%.
In our next segment, we're going to talk about your solutions, because you do, or you or ways to get closer to an objective analysis as to how you evaluate teachers. And I don't want to go straight for the jugular and start kicking the crap out of teacher unions. But it seems to me that we've got this dynamic where there are great teachers out there, all reports are that you're one of them, who have these very strong feelings about the integrity of a profession that is at the core of our future, has been and always will be. In this breakdown exists between union leadership arguing for a system that most of you, or the good ones, don't want to see, and nobody wants to buck the union leadership. Why does that thing exist? Why is there no Trumpian, not that I'm a Trump guy, Trumpian revolt amongst the teacher professionals for the kind of, at least in this category, lousy leadership they've been offered?
There is. It's silent, though. It's quiet.
Well, then it's not Trumpian.
It is not trumping it. But there's not a teacher anywhere of any quality that wants their child with a less than good teacher. We don't have to be great, but you got to be good. There's not a teacher out there. They all know what's going on, and I think there's a fear inflicted somewhere along the line, like everything's going to cave in if you lose seniority. You're cooked. You're fried. I had a good discussion last Friday.
Other issues, you mean? Other bargained issues?
Well, the seniority thing, and there is an element of this that needs to be aired. If you get rid of it as we have it, does that mean school committees and superintendents can walk in and simply say, get the top pay out of here, we're going to save a bunch of money? Because now we don't have seniority. That's not what I'm talking about. You have to go after who is best. Keep and retain the best, and there has to be a unbiased, or as unbiased as it can be. There's virtually nothing now except how long have you been breathing in that school, and that's unacceptable.
So tell me why there aren't more voices like yours.
I think people want to go to work, mind their business, do their job, go home, take care of their families, and I think my wife is wondering why I'm not one of those people, and she's the brains of the operation.
Well, is she worried about the feedback?
She's concerned that you how much do you want to do here? And I'm saying something is better than nothing. I've done nothing a whole long time except have chats here and there with colleagues, and most of them agree.
You wrote an op-ed piece. You spent some time on the radio with me last week. You're here today. I know the Lieutenant Governor is inviting you to a public forum because he was so impressed with your stuff. Is this a moment in time over a few weeks that you think you'll have said what you have to say and go back to doing your thing? Is this going to become a project for you? Where do you sit with this concept?
Great question. I don't know. I'll see where it goes. I would like to see movement. That discussion is happening. It seems to be happening only with proponents or people that want to listen to change. I don't hear anything from people who support it, which is a bit alarming. Or it's also telling, or both.
When we come back, the answer to the question, well, how do you evaluate teachers properly? Easy to stand up and say seniority stinks. Well, Mike's got a 4-point plan, actually. Stay with us. So look, this issue of seniority becomes a public conversation again, not that it's rearing its head often. Usually seniority comes as part of a package of reform ideas, collective bargaining squabbles, or that ridiculous time of year when a district gets a bunch of layoff notices, and that really is what's inspired you to, because there's a time of year when budgets are speculative and which I think is insane. So in the spring, a bunch of teachers have their hair standing up on end because they've been told that they're on the layoff list, and many of them are actually recalled or don't get laid off, correct?
Correct.
But this is this agita that the system puts teachers through, which is, I think, torture and shouldn't occur. But it does, and the list of people who are on the short list to go are those who've been there the least amount of time, who could be incredible hires and rock stars, as you say, in the education world. The argument that teachers make is that there's no real objective system. Now, Deb Gist, when she was commissioner, tried to put a plan together, and she backed off it slowly until she actually put it on the shelf before she exited stage left. But you have a very practical 4-point approach to this. Lay it on me.
So first, you need principals involved, and you don't need necessarily your own building principals, although they would be the first on a team. But you can have middle school principals. I'm at the high school, so if an elementary school principal came in and was the principal on that team, that would be a good thing. It's principals know good teaching, whether they're at elementary, middle school, or high school. Secondly,
so an administrative shakeup to take a new pool of administrators working collaboratively to evaluate. Okay, that's number one.
Secondly, well-regarded educators in the field. Whether they're, again, elementary can evaluate high school can evaluate middle school. Good teachers know what good teaching is, so they should be on the team. Third would be respected community members. They certainly come in to judge senior projects. There's a lot of people that are interested in what's going on in their schools, and a lot of people who don't have kids that would love to be in on evaluating. And they have to be screened and vetted, but there'd be a rubric to look at to see if this teacher is hitting the points. And lastly, let's get the students involved. Now you have to be careful there too, because if I have a student that has an issue with me because they didn't get the grade they wanted and didn't like my personality, well, then that might not be a good person to be at least evaluating
Well, let's
me.
go through to all four. The idea that the principals and the management thing ought to be able to, as part of their requirement, to be able to take a look outside their own environment and do some analysis is, I think, smart. It also is part of the trend, at least now, with the student commissioner who wants to empower middle management, empower principals. They are the people who are, they're running the ship, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's compatible with that, is it not?
Absolutely.
The idea that educators themselves, I'm guessing that you would give of your time and find some efficiencies in your day to be able to pop over to the middle school and do some teacher evals, yes?
We have days that we can do those things.
Are there not more better suited, or are there any more better suited people than excellent teachers to identify excellent teachers?
Many people have taken classes all their lives. They know good teaching. that being a good student or being a student that's interested in academia probably gives you a good charge to be able to be on one of those teams evaluating, I would think. A lot of smart people that aren't teachers, so you don't have to have just teachers.
Which is why you go to number 3, which is people in the community can come in and they can figure out, who's getting it done and who's not. That one leads toward a worry of infiltrating the environment of education with people who have axe to grind and politics to play, right?
People have to be vetted. People have to...
For their sincerity.
But absolutely. This has to be about what is going to be end all best for the student. And the people evaluating teachers have to have that in mind. And if there's a sniff of that's not what they're here for, they ought to be shown the door immediately.
And kids part of the evaluation, look, I'm not necessarily bought into on the even the middle school and high school level yet that they're the customer. It's a very funky definition, right, of status. But in the colleges right now, my daughter is finishing her junior year in college, and she talks to me all the time about how there's a website where they can go for student feedback on professors. Mm-hmm. She's found it instructive and sometimes inaccurate, because it's part of that blogosphere of stuff. But the concept is kind of there. It doesn't seem like we respect our kids very much in terms of their own input, right?
It depends which kids we're talking about. We can have some sharp kids on these teams that are educated on the rubric of what they're to be looking for, but based on professionalism, passion, knowledge of subject, agreeability, kindness. I think you'd have a kinder school if people had a little bit of fire under them with, you can't just go and do whatever because you're untouchable.
You got a percentage guess as to how many of these deadwood, as you would describe it, teachers we have lingering around the systems in general? Your system excluded, just a gut. We're talking about 5, 10, 15, 20, 25%?
It's tough. Each community and each school has its own culture. But I think it'd be an interesting question if you posed to any school principal. Any year you can justifiably, and you got to justify it, move on any 5%. You'd see some things getting very much more in line. I don't know about 10%, but, and by the way, they may not move at all. They may say, no, I'm good. I am good. I got a great place.
You're still okay in the lunchroom? Nobody decided to go hang out at another table because Michael wrote the piece?
I don't eat in the... Well, I eat with my social studies gang, and... No.
Wherever teachers gather?
Not at all. I've had people congratulate me that are teachers. They applaud it.
Did anybody, you got to answer this question.
Yeah.
Did anybody eyeball you?
No.
So they all think they're good teachers?
All
100% of them.
I haven't seen everybody though, so there's more people.
They're staying clear of you in the hallways. How long you stay on this is your business, but I thank you for making your voice heard, and if it makes sense, I'd like to have you back on some educational issues as we go. Appreciate your work.
Love
Thanks.
it.
All right.
Thank you.
Michael Marra, Portsmouth High School. Final word when we come back. So I was driving in a neighborhood in Massachusetts, western Massachusetts, this weekend, and I drove by this sign. Check this out. Everybody sucks 2016. The U.S. is doomed. I was so moved by it, I stopped and took a photo. It kind of, it's me. Thank you. I got to go get my own sign. Have a good night. Bye.